Okay, here we are again. We are back. This is the We Quit Booze Brothers, which is a podcast where we try to have honest, no fluff conversations about our various experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Mark. Yeah, here we are again. It's Sunday morning, and for me, the weather has gone downhill, but for you, I believe it's still very sunny. But anyway, enough about that. We'll put our Britishness aside for 1 minute, and yeah, let's get into today's topic. So I'll let you share more about it. But we were thinking about sobriety milestones. What does it mean? How do things evolve? For me, it's been uh soon to be 6 years, very soon to be 6 years. For you, I believe it's eight. What's changed, what challenges remain, and what do we think of it? So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, so it's sort of, I think partly the reason why we continue to do this is because it's one of the few things in this world that we do have genuine experience of. We've done it, we've been through it, and of course, when you go through any big life-changing event, you learn an enormous amount, and you tread the boards. There's no shortcut to experience. It's something that evolves and changes. And it is a weird one because I think there are lots of different milestones that kind of occur, generally speaking, throughout this sort of journey of either modifying or changing your relationship with alcohol, or doing what we've done, which is quitting completely. We talk about excuse me, the three stages: the period before you quit, which is an evolving time. The rhetoric in your head changes and shifts. You'll no doubt think about quitting, then you'll have a big night out and you'll drink loads, and you'll wake up the next day and think, oh shit, this is terrible. I really want to quit. And then the next time, the weekend rolls around, you don't feel as hungover as you did when you decided you wanted to quit, and suddenly the drink looks really appealing. So you go through all of that.
Mm.
Then you go through the period when you do quit, and it's that sort of transitional period of, fucking hell, I used to be a drinker, now I'm not a drinker. Like, what do you do on a Friday night? What do you do on a Saturday? You're like, is it
Yeah.
boring? Am I going to lose all my friends? How's it going to work? And we've talked a lot about that. And one of the things we haven't really talked about is the living in the long term without alcohol. And I think you evolve there too. I
Yeah.
definitely experienced that. And one of the things that I really noticed as time has gone by. So for me, it's I'm coming up on 8.5 years now. So it'll be 9 years at the end of this year. So not quite 8.5, but I'm into my, well into that into that period.
That's a
And
long time. That's impressive. you know
yeah, it is
Mad, isn't it?
all of a sudden, all of a sudden, it's like that is a long time. And I was thinking about it because this was your idea, the subject was your idea, and I was thinking, one of the things that's really changed for me was when I first quit, I felt quite self-conscious about telling people that I didn't drink. And I don't know why, but I think I thought they would immediately just assume I had a massive problem with alcohol, that I was like a
Mm.
raging alcoholic, and, conjuring up images of the guy lying on the park bench with the, swigging hard liquor out of a brown paper bag. And I
We
found
all know
myself,
is the
say again,
stereotypical, which we all know is the wrong stereotypical image of
yeah.
someone with a problem. Far from it.
Yeah, and I found myself over explaining,
Mm.
the she doth protest too much dynamic was sort of, and I'd like, and I could feel as I was telling people, because typically what would happen is when you first quit, and obviously alcohol inevitably comes up because it's everywhere. In case you hadn't noticed, it is everywhere. And some will say, well, let's go out for a beer. Do you fancy going out for a beer? And you say, actually, I don't drink anymore. So inevitably they would say, really? Why? What? You don't drink? Why? And I feel that anxiety sort of well up in me, like, oh, fucking hell, why did, well, like, and I go through this long-winded, and we've talked about, well, what you can say. And of course, you just practice your elevator pitch, you just practice what you're going to say. But
Mm.
now, one of the big changes for me is I can't wait for people to ask me. I wear it as an absolute badge of honor because I've learned over the long term how beneficial it is. I've learned that when you quit for a long time, it just fades into the background. And it's a bit like, I use the smoking analogy. When I was growing up, smoking was quite normal. People smoked in the
Mm,
office, people smoked on planes.
yep.
It was, they smoked in restaurants, they smoked in bars. It was a thing. Now smoking is a sort of, you're almost a social pariah. If you're in a cafe or in a bar and someone sparks up a cigarette in this country, people sort of like, kind of. And sometimes I was driving along here in England and it's a cold, wet, rainy day, and I see people huddled outside smoking cigarettes, because they're on their cigarette break. And I just think,
Mm,
what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I've almost reached that point with alcohol because I know how bad it is for you. I know it's terrible for you. I know how the cumulative benefits of, I've changed my life. I'm slimmer. I'm fitter than I've ever been. I'm getting older, so can't avoid that. But God knows what this would look like if I drank. And so I now can't wait for somebody to say, "Do you fancy a beer?" Because I say, "I don't drink. I don't drink anymore." And if anybody says why, do you know what I normally say now? I say, because it's fucking terrible for you. Because it's really, in
mm.
case you haven't noticed, it's really fucking bad for you. And I wanted to live this super productive, happy life. I was, on the one hand, running, drinking green juices, trying to monitor my diet, trying to exercise, and drinking alcohol is completely counterproductive. So, classic me, tried to keep this short, ended up talking for
Yeah.
about 15 minutes, but that's one of the big changes. I guess, in summary, so much more comfortable with this idea of not drinking. It just doesn't, to me, this feels normal. This is normal now.
Mm. Yeah. What's really great is you've come with a subject and a topic, as in, I wasn't when I came up with the thought, I said, let's talk about milestones. Let's talk about, do we celebrate milestones? Do we, do we share? Do we, what advice can we give? I honestly wasn't thinking about, the response that you give after time, but it's so important. And I think I myself have become so much more comfortable. You do, I think, because you get to the point where you kind of think, no, fuck it. What I'm doing actually is really bloody incredible and it's really, really good. And there's nothing wrong with being kind of honest and saying, you know, if people say, well, why don't you drink? I just say, do you know what? I had a bit of a problem with it when I was young. I had no off switch. For me, it was all or nothing. If you give me the bottle of wine, I'm going to finish the bottle of wine. And it just stopped working for me. It became counterproductive. My life became difficult because of it. So, I decided, I had a wake up call one day and decided that I wouldn't drink anymore. And it's the best decision I've ever made. And I think that, people do listen. People really, really have massive respect for that. And I don't care, some people may, brush it off, and I don't get invited to as many things as I did, but that's just fine by me. That's good. So I have no problem with it. And last week I was at a party, a 50th birthday party. And then the night before there was nice. In fact, I actually went and bought some really nice wine for the people, and that was a pleasure for me because I don't want it. But, if people are going to have a drink, why not let them have a nice wine? Um, but I was thinking about it in a slightly different way. So what I was thinking is, do we do you celebrate? Do you talk about, it's been a year? Some people like to publish that on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be. How does it work? And I think it's a really personal choice. Like for me, I know that I quit in May 2019, and that was when I had my last drink. I don't remember the exact date. I don't keep that in my mind. Some people do. Some people, it's very important. I do think about it. I do think, gosh, wow, it's coming up to 6 years. It'll soon be May next month, so it'll be 6 years. That's a long time. That's something I'm very proud of. I also have a physical reminder because the bar where I effectively ended it all is up the road from where I live, so I often walk past it, and that's a weird thing. I often look at it and think, actually, I look at it and I think I am so glad that that happened, because if I hadn't have, and you can read about it in my book, and we've done, look back on these podcasts, look back on these videos, we've talked about my rock bottom moment, but it happened. Well, that bar was linked to it, should I say? So that's interesting. But what I would say is, for those of you who think about milestones, who do be open about it, because I think it's a real how can I put it? I was going to say sucker punch. That's not the right term. It's a really powerful statement when someone looks at you and asks you about why you don't drink, and the conversation goes further, and they say, how long, and you say, 6 years. That's a long time. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people, lots of people, and I always go with this. If you said to the majority of people who drink, and I'm not saying these people have problems necessarily, but if you said to the majority of people, right, put that drink down now, for the next 30 days, you don't drink a thing. Stop. I know we're in mid party, but put that down. They wouldn't want to, B might not be able to, and then you get the arguments, which is, what do you mean, don't be so stupid, I'm an adult, or I can do what I want, and all that. And then you think, that's mad, isn't it? I'm only asking 30 days, and I've done 6 years. And it's for me, it is my new normal. It's how it is, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
It is a it is a badge of honor. I think what's really, I think, fascinating about these discussions is that we're brothers, but we are also different, and our
Mm,
experiences are really different. And I think that's what's kind of great about this, is I do notice with you that you are aware of the sort of celebratory element of quitting. And in fact, I was going to mention to you, actually, and I don't know how. So you post on Instagram quite often.
yeah,
Is it Man Get Sober, or is
it
it?
is. This man gets
And I
sober.
was
Yeah,
just thinking we should tell everybody to like follow you on Instagram, because
yeah.
you
Please do.
post these things. You post these, like, you'll just post these like little anecdotes of, like, I used to do this with my daughter and now I get to do it sober and it's so much better, or this is me when and one of the things that I think people get from these videos, and we used to get from videos like this, is that
Yeah,
little injection of like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Like, this is why I'm. And
100%.
so definitely part of what you were saying. So is the Instagram account Man Gets Sober? Is that
It
the
is.
I
It is. Yeah, it's
okay.
under
So
Man Gets
maybe
Sober. It's not under my name, Matthew Kerrison. No, it's
right.
Man
So
Gets Sober.
maybe, so definitely follow that, everyone, because it's kind of, I don't really use Instagram very much, but
No, no.
I've got you on it, and whenever I read them, I always think, oh, that's nice. That's
Yeah,
really
I
nice.
don't post a lot, and I try to keep it. Just sometimes I'm thinking of something, and I think, yeah, that
Yeah,
that needs to be
yeah, and
that
it's,
that that's something important to me. So I'm going to say something about that.
they're the moments, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
they're the moments of when you. I always say this about alcohol: you trade a few moments of what you consider to be pleasure when you drink for just a lifetime of moments that mean so much more. And I was thinking about this again. I was thinking, if you imagine you went to see a movie, right? And it was, let's say the movie was an hour and a half long.
Mm.
And let's just say the movie was a comedy, right? So you went to see a comedy. And in the movie, there was only one funny thing that lasted a few minutes. It made you laugh, and it made you
Yeah.
laugh out loud. But the rest of the movie was fucking dull, shit, boring, awful,
Made
drudged
you
through
feel
it.
depressed
You
at the end.
dredged through it, right? The next day, you're walking along and someone says, "What did you do last night?" And he said, "Oh, I went to see a movie." And they said, "Oh, was it good?" You'd say, "No, it was fucking awful. It was dreadful. It was dreadful. There was one bit in it that was good, but the rest of it was shit."
Mm.
That's what drinking does. That's what drinking does. If someone says to me, "Why
Yeah.
don't you drink?" I say, "Because I don't fucking enjoy it." And
Mm.
what if you actually add up the time span, if you take into account the time leading up to it, the period of time when you're actually drinking. So let's say you're drinking for a 5 or 6 hour session. There's only going to be probably an hour when it's truly enjoyable. The rest of it's going to be you're so drunk that you're just trying to chase that high again, or you're trying to keep hold of something. If you add the sleepless night, if you add the write off the next day, if you put all of that time together, it's like going to watch a movie where there's one funny bit and the rest of it is shit. That is your experience of drinking
Mm.
alcohol.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yet we still do it. And when we quit, we are weirdly like, I can stand and honestly say, why don't you, people say, why don't you drink? Because I fucking enjoy it. It's fucking terrible. I might get an hour of buzz where it's funny and I'm drinking. But if you add that into the complete context of the probably 24 hours of shit sleep, dreadful hangover, it's not the experience is not enjoyable. It's such a strange concept.
And it's farcical really, because example, last night we had friends over with their kids. So I think there were 10, 11 of us here last night. And they're not big drinkers. I think they were like, what were there, 5, 6 adults, and they drank 2 bottles of wine. Nice wine. Guy brought some really nice wine. Actually, I always credit people when they, made an effort. But they left about 12:30, and so we didn't get cleared up and everything. You know what it's like. We didn't get to bed till about 1:30 in the morning. I had a great time. It was really, really nice. Really good evening. The kids had a good time, and I was still up at 7:30 this morning, out for a run at 8:30, 7K, not miles, but it's, perfect. And then back doing this. And you just think, I've not missed out on anything. I haven't missed out on anything except the feeling groggy, hungover, not really getting out of bed, thinking, I just want food. It's that's what's mad about it. But
And
yeah,
you feel better about yourself. And
yeah,
you feel
yeah.
great about yourself. That's what I mean about you trade that one tiny moment of I've got a buzz because I've just drunk this wine and it's giving me a buzz and I feel kind of happy and smiley and great. You trade that for just when you don't drink, you get a lifetime of these little experiences and little reminders. And I think that's the point of this discussion is that you can celebrate the milestones. You get, 1 year. I do, every because I am one of those people who knows the date. The date
Yeah,
is January the 9th is the date.
there you go.
And I am sort of proud of that time, but I also know that I get to enjoy. I had one just this morning. I was out running. It's a weird one, this one. I was out running and a car sort of, I was on the road already, and this car kind of spun round the corner very, very quickly, too fast. And I was running, but I was already in the road. And he just like leant on his horn. And as he drove past, he called me a wanker. He called me
Ah,
completely accurate. He wasn't wrong. But
friend
what
of yours. Yeah.
about it was that my temperament is so much calmer than it almost made me smile. I
Mm,
thought that guy's there's something wrong with that guy. That's not he was sort of going too fast. I was already in the road. He caught, it was he reacted really badly, and it was and I attribute that to not drinking. I don't feel I think if I'd have drunk last night and I was even if I'd managed to go out for a run, which is debatable, I could get triggered. I could get angry
yeah, you could
quickly.
have turned around and
It
mouthed off to him, and
yeah, I might have reacted. I might have
yeah.
said something back. Things would what I get wind me up much quicker than
Mm.
and I'd say nothing winds me up. I still get annoyed with fucking others. I have to get annoyed with in the fucking world at the moment. But um, yeah, it's what I'm trying to say is you get millions of little moments where you're reminded of the benefits constantly, and that's it's not nothing.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right. And my advice would be, just to finish up on my side, would be, you know, celebrate those milestones. Even if you just think about it, even if you just go, oh, this month it's going to be a year, this month it's going to be a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. I always say, any time under your belt that you can get being sober is better than not. You know, if someone says to me, oh, I normally drink every day, but I took 3 days off. I mean, like, how are those 3 days? You know, what do those 3 days feel like? Did you not get some benefit? What was the benefit? Did you maybe wake up feeling less tired? Whatever. But celebrate those milestones. And I actually wrote something off here because I'm a bit weird. But I maybe this year might just take myself off to the cinema, get myself a big bag of sweets, and sit and watch a film and just revel in the enjoyment of that. Something simple, but there you go. So whatever it means to you, I think it's important. Be proud of yourself. If you've got this under control, if I know there's always times when you'll be tempted and there's hard times, and we could do another podcast about that, but really pat yourself on the back. Make sure that you don't forget just what you've achieved, because it really is great.
100%. 100%. Great. Okay, good place to finish. That's it. We'll call it a wrap. So thanks everybody again for staying with us. Really appreciate it. We love all the comments. Means the world to us. It really does. Do all the normal things. Follow Man Gets Sober on Instagram. It's a good account
Yeah,
to
please do.
follow. And until the next time, never quit quitting. It's goodbye from me.
That's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.